Everyone out there in YouTube land, Dan here from GeekCast Radio doing another Marvel Fresh Start review. This time I'm continuing my look at the Immortal Hulk series worth the Immortal Hulk number 3. And I'm going to go ahead and say that out of all the Fresh Start books, but I think Fresh Start has been a really big success, at least quality-wise, when it comes to Marvel, even though it's like their eighth Fresh Start or eighth relaunch, whatever you want to call it, in some time. I think they've been doing some great things and putting good creators in the right spot. No more than that of the Immortal Hulk. It's probably my favorite book out of all of them so far. Probably mostly because it's harkening back to a type of story that we have not seen in some time, and at least feeling like they're appreciating the Hulk or taking the Hulk in a direction that he desperately needed. Like if all characters that needed a fresh start or needed a new approach, the Hulk was one of them, and this is accomplishing that. And this is written by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett, and then like 4 other different artists. Which when I talked about in my comic book call, I was a little concerned as you look at the cover and like that's a big list of names. What happened? And Marvel has been notorious of having books where it's like, okay, here's an artist and I'm turning a page, here's another artist. This doesn't really go together. This is really hard to follow now. And now we're in another artist and it can be a jumbled mess. And my concern is like that was happening here. I try not to read the previews of books before I actually pick up the book and read them. I like to kind of give everything in one fell swoop. But if I did read that, I think I would better understand exactly why that was happening. As we see, it's purposeful. It wasn't because someone didn't meet a deadline. It was to fit this story. Now they could have built this in because they want to give Joe Bennett some time to draw more books. I mean, this is the 3rd issue already, and I think the first issue came out like a month ago. So they are pushing these out fast. But we see this officer or reporter that's going through and interviewing these key witnesses of a situation that occurred in a church involving the human ray gun and the Hulk. And what's great is that each witness views the event differently, as you would expect. That's represented through different art styles. You have the police officer who views things in a very 60s era type of style of dialogue, very Stan Lee-esque. And it's great, I think, at showing how different people can perceive different things. And then you also have the bartender that they have a conversation with. And I was trying to kind of remind, I couldn't put my finger on like who this like when I looked at this, I was thinking of like Daniel Close, who does like the Wilson book and Ghost World. That was my first thought when it came to this, and maybe that was the kind of what the style they were going for. Very unlike any other type of you don't really see that type of art or that type of layouts when it comes to an actual superhero book. So trying some new things, that's great to see in only the first 3 issues. But I could see for a lot of people that's not ideal. I thought it was a good way of telling the story. And then we have the old lady that she's referred to as the old lady, so I'm not trying to be mean. And we see her, and she views things very much differently. For her, the human ray gun was the victim here, because he looks like James Dean, so she's infatuated with him, which was a little strange, but hey, good on her, and then there's also the priest, who has a very gothic-like look. Interesting that of all the different characters, it's the priest who views things much through a darker prism than all the other characters, and which is kind of, again, it's not like this approach is breaking, unlike anything else that's ever been seen. It's been done before, but it can still be effective. I mean, a lot of stories elements have been done before. I think it's also a good way of like maybe giving Joe Bennett, like I mentioned, a little bit of time to do some of the more issues, because I love it when a Marvel book can actually have a consistent artist. So if doing a book like this, doing an issue like this can allow that to happen, sure, and it having different artists in it and actually fitting the story, fantastic. And I thought all the artists art, like, it's usually when you have multiple artists, you're like, how well do they fit together? Here they fit together, but it's because of the structure of the story. And I've been enjoying this episodic approach. This one, though, I think the one thing I think the other ones had was there was something I think a little bit deeper going on with some of the other ones. Even and when you open with a John Milton quote from Paradise Lost, I was expecting more of the same. In this one, it didn't have it as much. It felt like a fill gap issue. We're getting to other things. We're going to take this side story for just a moment in time, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program later on. So that was the one downside of this is why I don't think it's probably one of the better issues of this run. It's still a good issue, at least in at least trying to kind of keep this momentum going by taking that episodic approach and doing it differently, and providing a reason for why you'd want five artists on a book, and it does leave it a pretty strong cliffhanger too. My only issue is that it doesn't have that next level, and it's more of kind of a fact finding mission than anything else. And but I do love the fact that we have all these styles. You have this, how they are able to kind of combine them all into one. I thought that was effectively done. I mean, that's a sign of a good editor, a good writer, where you can you're communicating with a lot of people about one specific page. I think that can be something that's easily overlooked, because when you're working with different artists on the same panel and trying to make it all work, that's a skill within itself. So and there's a big shocking moment, as you see from the cover. I think it's maybe perhaps ruined because it's on the cover, but that's a fantastic cover. So hey, what are you gonna do? But so yeah, if you've not been reading the Immortal Hulk, I think what's weird about each issue is that issue 1, 2, or 3, you could pick up pretty much any of them, and if you never read a comic before, and you get everything you kind of need within it. So I'm impressed with what Alan Ewan's doing, and it's great seeing Hulk kind of as the most exciting book, and that where I love the feeling of a comic where I'm picking it up and I don't know what that issue is going to be about. Like, I don't even know who the characters are going to be. All I know is probably Hulk's going to show up, maybe Bruce Banner, maybe not. In this, I don't think we see Bruce Banner at all. But it's a type of excitement you really don't get, because very rarely do you have episodic storytelling when it comes to comics. Everything's usually kind of linked, and you kind of know, and you have these drawn out stories, which can just be as effective. But I think for this, the way I try to describe it, it's like you take that Bill Bixby TV series, from the 60s and 70s, and instead of it being more of an action drama, it's a horror book. It's not straight horror. It's not like pop at you horror, Nightmare on Elm Street horror. It's more kind of monster horror, Frankenstein-esque, where it's dealing with the unknown, more sadistic. And I wish we had a little bit more sadistic Hulk in this, but I did love the Preacher's take on the Hulk too, and this is again a great book to pick up. You gotta, Marvel, there's a lot of things to knock Marvel on. They do a lot of crazy things. The paper stock isn't all that great. Maybe they overcharge, but when it comes to the quality of the comics that have coming out as of late, it's been fantastic. It's been a huge improvement, I should say. And this is, like I said, on the top of the list for me. So if you've been reading Marvel Fresh Start, what have your thoughts been on it? What's been your favorite book, least favorite book? Am I crazy? Is it just low expectations of the fact that anything's good? I'm overblowing it. Maybe that's the case, but hey, I want to read good comics, so when I get them, I get excited about it. It's part of the game, I guess. But that's it for me. Just remember, comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.